Well, there's two lines of evidence. One is biblical evidence, and the other is scientific evidence. So I would start with the biblical evidence that God tells us in Genesis 1 that he created in 6 literal days. And it's clear they're literal days because he says he created the world in darkness, and then he created the light. He called the light day, the darkness he called night. There was evening and there was morning one day. And everywhere in the Old Testament where the word for night, for evening and morning is used, it always means a literal part of a literal day. And then God numbers those days. 1 day, 2nd day, 3rd day, 4th day in Genesis 1. And everywhere where the Hebrew word for day, yom, is used and modified by a number in the rest of the Old Testament, it always means a literal day. Then on the 4th day, beginning in verse 14, it says that God created the sun, moon, and stars so that we could measure time, years and seasons and days. And the heavenly bodies do enable us to measure those literal periods of time. Another important verse is in Exodus chapter 20 where God gives the 10 Commandments. And it's a verse that I've found in all my reading and interaction with Christians who accept the millions of years. They haven't thought about this. But God tells the children of Israel, you work 6 days because I created in 6 days. And he uses the same word for day in both parts of the verse. And that verse, I like to say, it stands as a brick wall against any attempt to put millions of years into the Bible. Because in verse 11 it says, for in 6 days the Lord made the heavens, the earth, the sea, and all that is in them. So he didn't make anything before the 6 days. He made everything during those 6 days. So there's no place to put the millions of years. You can't put it before the creation week, because the creation week begins at verse 1 when God says, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. You can't put it into the days because they're literal days, and you can't put it between the days. So there's just no way to harmonize that. A couple of other passages that I've found most Christians who accept millions of years haven't thought about are in the New Testament. In Mark chapter 4, when Jesus was asked a question about divorce by the Pharisees, and he responded by taking them back to Genesis 1 and 2, and he says, from the beginning of creation, God made them male and female. And that little phrase, from the beginning of creation, is revealing the worldview of Jesus. He believed that Adam and Eve were back there at the beginning of creation. Now, the 6th day on a 4,000-year time period, which was how long it was from Jesus to creation week, according to the biblical chronology, that is the beginning of creation in a non-technical sense as Jesus was speaking. But if the evolutionary view is right, man was created at the tail end of time to date, over 13 billion years after the beginning. Also in Romans chapter 1, Paul says that since the creation of the world, God's invisible attributes have been clearly seen through what has been made. So people are without excuse. And so Paul believed that witness to the Creator has been seen by human beings since the creation of the world. Adam saw the witness to the Creator in the creation. Job saw it 2,000 years before Paul. In Job 12, he said, speak to the earth, speak to the beasts, and they'll tell you that the hand of the Lord has done this. And David saw it in Psalm 19. The heavens declare the glory of God. So the creation has been witnessing to humans from the very beginning.